Alright, WWDC 2025 has just breezed upon us. God, this time fly. And I think lately, every event they do leads to some sort of controversy or problem. Like, just look back at 2024. We started with the iPad Pro M4 having too limited software to actually use its power well, and moved on to WWDC, where we waited and waited and waited for Apple Intelligence features, yet never really got them. And then to the iPhone 16 September event, where everyone was mad there was no Apple Intelligence on the devices that had Apple Intelligence in their marketing. And then to the Mac series of announcements, where, again, the Apple Intelligence issue kind of stole the show. But just not as much. And of course, you cannot forgive Apple for putting the power button on the bottom of the Mac Mini. Yes, you heard that right, the bottom. As much as I can praise the Mac Mini for being a genuinely insane new computer, you just have to sometimes question Apple's design team, like why they also put the USB-C port on the bottom of the Magic Mouse. Oh dear Apple. But all jokes aside, this time they decided to play it bold yet safe at the same time, and honestly I have to say, to summarize first impressions without testing any of this yet in one sentence, they have finally given us what we wanted, but with just one big yet little catch. I would explain more, but I don't feel like I will have to after saying my top 10, or should I say 25 divided by 2.5 favorite new features. As you can truly see, Apple finally got it right this time. And before I mention anything, I'd like to say that they renamed all of their operating systems to correspond with the year the software will fully release. So, like all the last minute leaks suggested, we will now have iOS 26, macOS 26, iPadOS 26, visionOS 26, tvOS 26, and watchOS 26. Mostly because of their new liquid glass design, which they felt was important enough to change their naming system over from the expected iOS 19, macOS 16, iPadOS 19, visionOS 3, tvOS 19, and watchOS 12. But the real question is, can this new fresh coat of paint help aid the issues they've been having, like the overpromised and undelivered Apple Intelligence, mediocre at best Vision Pro sales from the year before, and the overall slightly buggy iOS 18, or is it just another distraction to divert us away from these problems? Well, let's get into the features, and then we can chat. So, going from the worst of the best to the best of the best, let's start with polls and backgrounds of messages, two highly requested features that are already in many different messaging apps. So, nothing groundbreaking here, but it is nice to know that Apple has finally added this feature to their native messaging app, especially polls, because there have been a number of times when I just really wanted to ask something to everyone in a group chat and give a few options for them to choose from. The next three features will all be related to the Vision Pro, because I think that visionOS 26 truly takes a lot of advantage over this being an AR headset. And some of these things I really think should have been an obvious decision from Apple at the start. So if you are one of the 26 people that own a Vision Pro, you can start by looking forward to external accessory support. Yes, you heard it right, external accessories. Not only can your Vision Pro now connect to things like styluses for drawing and modeling apps, but it can also connect with VR2 Sense controllers from PlayStation, which opens a whole new world of possibilities, getting it closer to the level in which you can game on a Meta Quest. My family actually just got a Meta Quest, so stay tuned for a review on that. But according to quite a couple of people, up to this point, the only practical thing the Vision Pro is good at is for watching movies. But now, it'll also be good for designing and gaming, which is exciting. Next up, you can now share windows with someone else who's on a Vision Pro, which, I mean, it is such an obvious thing, yet makes things a lot easier for everyone. Now, you can watch movies together with someone else on a Vision Pro at the same time, again, if you're one of the 26 people that own one. Or you can show models of something to someone, which would be even more useful, as if you're going to watch movies with someone and you both have Vision Pros, it's safe to say you can definitely also afford a TV. Again, the obvious thing, but Apple really decided to listen to us this time. And last but not least, one of the biggest things they announced for the Vision Pro is, hear me out, spatial scenes. And while none of this stuff may seem as practical as the other stuff announced for the Vision Pro, you just have to admire how much thought Apple has put into this. Basically, along with spatial photos and videos, now when you scroll, it will turn images spatial too, making your experience much more pleasant to look at. And when you're in a website, it will make all things look spatial. So say if you're in Zillow, you can get a better look at the house you're looking at. It also seems like they've improved the look of spatial photos as well, so that's also pretty exciting. But I've already mentioned this spatial scene stuff. So let's just get on with some other things that will make your spatial experience better, shall we? To start, you can now turn 360-degree video captured from, say, your Insta360 and let it surround you when you're watching it, making it feel much more lifelike than if you were watching a 2D version of that same 360-degree video. Along with that, web developers can put 3D objects into, say, a shopping website so that you can preview, move around, and interact with that object in your space. This is similar to another cool thing, widgets, which I think is kind of the cherry on top in all of this AR stuff. It's honestly so cool, but the idea is so simple. To put widgets on your walls and give them depth to make it feel like they're actually there. And from what I've seen, the widgets look really cool, especially the photos widget, which, because of spatial photos, looks like a window into a scene far, far away. Anyways, that's it for the Vision Pro stuff, and shoot, I'm already losing count of how many features we've gone through. But I count those mentioned so far, the messages and Vision Pro stuff, as 4 features combined. So for my 6th favorite feature I saw, I gotta say, it has to be visual intelligence anywhere on your screen. It's a relatively, again, simple idea that feels like the obvious thing Apple should have done from the start. It is a lot like Circle to Search on Android, but here you can take a screenshot and highlight the area where you want to search. And just like visual intelligence used to work with the camera, it reverse image searches with the area you highlighted on your screen and provides relevant results from Google and any other apps, along with being able to do things like add things to your calendar if there's an event on your screen. You can also ask what you see to ChatGPT. You know, all the good old things we got from visual intelligence in the past, which is really handy. Next, for my 5th favorite feature announced, and you might recognize this from Google's Pixel series, we have call screening and hold assist. Essentially, what call screening does is evaluate an incoming phone call's characteristics with a voice that asks the person on the other end if it is detected as spam before deciding how to handle it, like answering, sending the voicemail, or blocking. And hold assist is also exactly what it sounds like. It automatically stays on hold for you when you're waiting for a live agent. It sounds great. But also, in messages, spam can be filtered out and stored in a spam-only section, where you can decide to block the person's number or take other actions. For my 4th favorite feature that I saw on this list, it has got to be live translation anywhere across their apps. It's considered a new feature of Apple Intelligence, just like visual intelligence. And as you can probably guess, it's built into communication apps like Messages to send to others, in things that are not your language, along with the phone app and FaceTime, where it translates what the person on the other end is saying. Heck, it's even built into Apple Music, so that you can know what the lyrics in a song not in your language mean. In Messages, it overall seems pretty fast and working pretty well, but in the phone app and FaceTime, I gotta say, even though it was a demo, it seemed to be a bit slow, as you have to wait for the person on the other end to finish speaking before you hear the translation, which I imagine can bring on a lot of delay between conversation exchanges.
Hi, are you available to cater a wedding on December 6th?
Hallo, sind Sie für eine Hochzeit am 6.
Overall though, I think it's a really cool feature, and I'm just glad Apple is finally adding this feature after other companies like Samsung have had instant translation since their Galaxy S24 series of phones, which came out in early 2024. Anyways, moving on, we finally made it to our top 3, the podium of features in which I think were the best that I saw at their event. And in third, we have the overall new design of their 26 series of platforms, which is something you'll likely notice right off the bat when you unlock your phone. Apple's calling it liquid glass, and while some are saying it's a throwback to Windows Vista from 2006, I honestly think it looks sick. Everything feels more purposeful, more expressive, and more delicate. And just like I mentioned in the iOS rumors short, these things all make their platforms feel more like their platforms. Like take iOS, which is known to be more flowy and dynamic than Android, which is known to be quick and snappy. But it's not just their animations, and as the feature liquid glass implies, things feel a lot more transparent and glass-like, kind of like the interface you see on the Vision Pro. And this was highly anticipated in the rumors, notably from FPT, and we could see it even before liquid glass was announced in their 2 newest apps, Apple Sports and Apple Invites. Also from the rumors, FPT pretty much nailed the idea of what the new redesigned camera app would look like, as it does indeed look a lot more simple and minimalist than it used to. Again, making iOS feel more like iOS, as Apple is known for being super minimalistic. One of the reasons they did this was because they knew most users don't really go into different camera settings, so they decided to make it look more streamlined by taking away all of those elements that make it look confusing and letting you access them with a swipe or tap, such as video recording settings, exposure styles, and more. I personally think it overall looks pretty cool, but let me know in the comments what you guys think, because it does seem like one thing that is pretty controversial. But since mentioning this more transparent, glass-like design, you might have thought of something else that might be controversial. Readability, as buttons may not be as visible as they used to be, especially in places like the control center. Don't worry though, because I'll solve all of those problems with a single fix in the Settings app, which is to go to Accessibility, tap into Display and Text Size, and turn on Reduce Transparency, which is actually a setting currently available despite iOS 26 not being released to the public yet. This is finally something actually new from Apple, and I'm all here for it, but many people aren't and say it just looks foolish and stupid. Just like iOS 7, their last transformation of the look of their software, this is different, and it takes a while for people to accept difference. Moving on to my second favorite feature I saw, it has got to be the new Spotlight search on Mac, because now, along with being able to open up apps or search something up, you can do very complex actions on your Mac. New shortcuts in the Shortcuts app were also introduced, and now all shortcuts can be accessed with Spotlight Search, so that you can do things like send whole strings of messages in the matter of seconds, just by typing a few things. But that is kind of like an oversimplified version of things. The really awesome thing is that you can do any action, even if it's outside of the app you're currently working in the app you're currently working in, if that makes sense. It doesn't even have to do with apps though. You can perform actions that would typically be accessed through the menu bar through Spotlight Search now. Heck, you can even edit a photo, all with Spotlight. You can even program things called quick keys to do actions with Spotlight, where you can just type a few characters and perform the action you're trying to do instead of typing out the whole words out. For example, you can type SM to send a message instead of typing out message. Like, who wants to do that? You can also see your files with just a click with Spotlight, and I imagine you would be able to drag and drop something somewhere, which I think would be very cool. Adding on to that, you can now access your clipboard history through Spotlight Search, which is yet another thing that people have begged Apple specifically to do, but they just haven't done it yet. The new Spotlight Search is honestly just like how we wanted Siri 2.0 to be with its on-screen awareness and in-app actions, but like even better somehow. It's not even a theory at this point because it uses the same app intents API that Siri 2.0 was supposed to use. Good old Siri 2.0. And if I still don't have you hooked on how cool this is, just look at this demo.
I have an image I copied to my clipboard. Let me paste that in. Great. Next, quick resize. I'll search for background removal. And there's the Pages menu item. I'll just hit return. There we go. I can now use Spotlight to get to my clipboard history. Here it is, on the right. This is super helpful to get back to an image, some text, or a link I copied earlier in the day. Spotlight knows I add docs to this ideas board regularly, so it actually offers that as an action. Right here. It's all ready to go with the document queued up and everything.
And now, what you've been all waiting for. The number one best feature in mine and many others' opinions is in iPadOS, just like it was last year with the calculator app. And honestly, out of everything, this is the thing we've been asking from them to do the most. Can you guess what it is? Yes? That's right, the iPad is getting macOS. Kind of. Apple themselves call this groundbreaking, as they do every feature they announce, like nothing new really, but I actually think this one is actually worthy of that title because you get multiple windows like macOS, familiar controls that can open and close apps like macOS, and even a full-fledged menu bar. This is truly something hoped for, but not seen in rumors, and honestly, I don't think any of us saw this coming, as after waiting this long, you'd expect Apple to never launch a feature like this, as it would truly cannibalize their MacBook sales. But they did, and boy are people happy. You can literally just drag the corner of an app and make it smaller, turning it into a window. From there, you can open even more apps, like you would be able to do on a Mac. You even get a new, finally normal cursor, which looks like it has taken a big step forward from the blob that we used to have with the Magic Keyboard. It honestly solves the number one biggest problem of the iPad, which is that it's just not that useful. Any daily activities like texting, browsing, or gaming would always want to be done on my phone, while any work-related things would be done on my computer. And people really seem to notice this problem, especially with the iPad Pro M4, where the hardware very literally outpaced the software, and the software didn't harness the full potential of what the hardware could do. So here you would expect that, just like Stage Manager, their now old multitasking interface, that this would only be compatible with the iPad Pros, right? Well, let me answer that for you. No. Yep, you heard it right. This is compatible with every single iPad. And it's honestly wild. Even the iPad mini, which doesn't have a Magic Keyboard attachment made by Apple. And even though I have no idea why you would use this new feature without a keyboard case attachment, you just have to consider the fact that Apple diverted from their usual path of limiting these kinds of features to the Pro devices. But not gonna lie, I would also be quite mad if they did limit it to the Pros. So yeah, that's my ranking of the best features I saw at WWDC this year. And along with that, I'd like to mention some other things that I saw that I really liked but didn't make the top 10 lists. I'm just gonna shoot through these. Some things include the ability to use existing emojis to generate Gemojis, more styles for Image Playground using ChatGPT, Smart Stack hints for Apple Watch that predict what you need from your Smart Stack, what time of day you need it, a new, all-improved control center for Mac where you can customize the controls, a new, more photorealistic persona for FaceTime on the Vision Pro, a revert back to the old iOS 17 Photos app, thank God for that, a new Games app, which has a bunch of games. I mean, how else am I supposed to describe that, really? A flip wrist gesture on Apple Watch that can dismiss notifications, which seems really handy, by the way. A way to start and stop recordings or take photos with AirPods, something that, again, seems very smart and useful. And even a way to turn photos on your iPhone spatial, which honestly looks so crazy and cool at the same time, as if it's popping out of your phone. Whew, that was a lot, but There are a few more little things, like how we can finally customize the snooze time on alarms, something I've wanted for a really long time. How you get a reminder to clean or wipe your lenses on your cameras, which honestly works like magic sometimes, and how it can tell you now how long it will take for your device to fully charge, which is just an awesome feature, I must say. I have to mention that most of these features, the top 10 or the other ones I liked, weren't particularly new ideas, but many were already on Android. It is nice to see Apple finally adding some of these features though. So for all you laughing Android users out there watching this video, I got you covered. That is honestly the common theme throughout all of these features. From the instant translation, which is already on Samsung phones, to the call screening and hold assist the Google Pixel is so well known for, to the polls in many different messaging apps, to even the multitasking with Samsung DeX on both their phones and their tablets, where you can even plug in a monitor to make the experience better. But again, I'm just happy that this is finally something new that Apple is doing. But you know something they didn't mention that they actually should have? An apology on the shaky Apple Intelligence launch. Honestly, this, out of everything they announced, would have been the easiest to do. Just say a few words or phrases about how deeply sorry you are about the situation. But they didn't, and I feel pretty disappointed in them. Now, I don't want to go on a ramble or rant about this, as I've already done something similar in my previous video, but they did say something at the start of the keynote. You might have missed it if you blinked a couple of times, but the statement was that, quote, "This work required more time to reach our high-quality bar, and we look forward to sharing more about it in the coming year," which is 2026. So yeah, not really an apology, but I mean, at least they finally acknowledge it. So as per usual, it's another promise, and we'll have to see if they will actually fulfill the promise this time. But aside from this stuff, I gotta say, between the new liquid glass design, the iPad's multitasking, and the Mac's new Spotlight search, love Apple or hate Apple, you gotta say, we at least have something new. Something safe, which are the features we've been wanting forever, and something bold, which is very clearly this new design. Let me leave you with that thought. Alex Explained, signing out.